Hello there and welcome to this abridged commentary of Nobunaga's Ambition Sphere of Influence. To start with, it probably won't be that abridged because I'm aware a lot of people probably don't know much about this game. It's somewhat obscure from what I can tell. It's basically Japanese Crusader Kings 2. What I'll be doing is talking about some of the mechanics in more detail towards the beginning of the series so that everyone knows what's going on, with myself being one of those people who needs to work that out. And then we'll cut out more stuff later on once we've all got the gist of what's happening. Similar to Crusader Kings 2, you can choose different start dates and you can play as any faction on our map of Japan, but we're not going to mess around. We're going to go straight down the generic path of picking the start date and clan that allows us to play as Nobunaga, after whom the game is named. So Nobunaga's some 18-year-old punk. Here he is in the opening cutscene, arguing with his tutor and generally being a bit of a bastard. That's basically his character. It's time for us to inherit a piece of the Oda clan, although it's not the Oda clan as you might see it in something like Total War, because here we're doing things in more detail. The Oda clan in this particular setting is split between different branches of the family that aren't unified. So to begin this campaign, we're going to do this historical quest where we need to essentially create the unified Oda clan by fighting against the other two Oda clans that are also in our starting province. So here's the game. It's a combination of turn-based strategy and real-time strategy. You basically each month make a set of civic decisions, but then the month will play out in real time where you can make military decisions on the fly and control things with a bit of micro. We're right slap bang in the middle of the map as the Oda. It's a pretty dangerous position. You can be attacked from all sorts of directions, but there are lots of mountains we'll be able to use to our advantage strategically. But to start with, we have basic concerns, like working out what all these buttons do. I'm not really going to talk about it in that much detail, but suffice to say, there are various things we can do to upgrade our economy. You can build all sorts of things in your towns to provide all sorts of upgrades you might expect to your economy, and you can pay to just generally invest in your own economy and develop it in certain ways. You're developing your three main economic stats, that being your food supply, your money supply, and your conscripts supply, which will be all important when it comes to fighting, of course. You can also do things like micromanage the road network and choose which roads get expanded and things. You can fortify virtually any point on the map. You can build entire new towns. So it's a lot more hands-on than something like Crusader Kings or Total War, which I quite like. Although that also means more micro, down to the point when you have to pick retainers from your list of retainers to do specific jobs. You might note I've added a retainer called Offed. Another nice thing about this game is you can customize your campaigns. You can add new characters to factions, you can change start dates, you can change basically anything to make a custom Sengoku Jidai scenario. So just to make it easier on myself, I've added a decent administrator character to the Oda clan called Offed. He's Nobunaga's brother. Maybe he'll inherit the clan if things go wrong. Anyway, we've also got diplomacy to consider. Diplomacy in this game is a bit different to something like Crusader Kings or Total War, because you're essentially at war with everyone all the time. It is a state of total war. So in order to not be at war with someone, you have to do something to make it so. Namely, make an alliance of some kind. We begin the game allied to the sub-Oda clan that's next to us, but at war with one of the other ones. And you also have this trust relationship with various clans, which you increase by sending people to do diplomatic missions. The trust is like a currency. You build up trust with a faction and then you can buy something off them. So it's something like if you develop 40 trust, you quote-unquote buy an alliance, you lose the trust, but now you're allied to that faction and you can do various things with that. So I'll talk about diplomacy if and when it becomes relevant. Now it's time to deploy some troops, and we have the option to deploy them with horses, or with guns, or with neither of those things, and at various unit sizes based on how many conscripts are available at the castle we're deploying from. I noticed I didn't have enough guns to get it to the 720 amount it was suggesting. Luckily there's a gun store, so we can go buy a whole bunch of guns off some guy, thus wasting our clan's treasury and allowing us to field an army that's fully equipped with muskets. Now what we're going to do with this army is rush over to take the nearby castle, and I mean rush because I had it on super fast forward mode, meaning we actually miss most of the real-time portion of the first turn. And as you might have noted, some stuff happened, some enemy armies rushed at me and apparently lost in a battle, so that's useful. And here I'm going to show you the micromanagey real-time battle thing you can do. So this is something it has on top of Crusader Kings 2 style auto-resolving between armies. You can actually go down and do a bit of micro to affect the outcome of the fight, which is nice. In this case, well, there are only a few enemies, so we just go stand near them and shoot them with a bunch of stuff. And that's pretty much all there is to this battle. This was just to demonstrate what you can do, because I'm sure many people aren't aware of this game. So there is a Total War style battle system you can go down into, although it's very simple. We'll talk more about that later. After that, we have the castle under siege. When you're sieging it, you can either attack it, burn it down, or just wait for them to surrender. In my case, I went for attacking it to try and take it a bit faster. Here's the road management system. For whatever reason, whenever a game has the ability to micromanage roads, it's just automatically good. There's something satisfying I find about making and upgrading roads for some reason. In this case, I actually didn't do the upgrades I was planning because I realized it would cost all of our money. But once we're richer, we can have all kinds of roads, and that will be very satisfying for everybody. Here we are, still going after that castle. We've depleted its HP to 0 by attacking it, and when a castle has no hit points, your attacks start killing the guys inside, and there were barely any guys inside, so after that we immediately capture the place. Whether actually attacking the castle is better than sieging them out and trying to get them to surrender, I don't know, we'll come back to that in a second. A cutscene explains that the place we just took is a bit better than the place we had before, so we're going to move our capital there or something, and then we move right on out to go and attack the other enemy castle just down the road to the east. I think there was like a microsecond long battle, somebody came out there, fought us for, well, like half a second, and then disappeared, so we defeated something. And now we just leave the place under siege. You can see it's got loads of hit points, this castle, so it's going to take us a long time to bring those hit points down by attacking it. We don't have to attack it, but again we'll come back to that. Here's me doing a bit of micro that I found kind of inconvenient. You have to move your officers in between castles to make sure that your castles always have people stationed there. And what you can do is check out those stats to make sure that somebody who's good at each particular stat line is in each castle. For example, you need somebody who's good at building to be there to improve the castle's buildings, and you need someone who's good at fighting to lead the troops, and maybe someone who's good at politics to do something or other, I don't know. But I'm just doing it basically randomly because I didn't want to go down the tables and actually work all that out. I eventually deploy some more troops to go and help out with this castle attack, and it is successful. This means we've completed the quest it gave us to take down the rebellious Oda clan elements. Or have we? Because immediately upon completing the quest, the Oda clan elements that were allies to us betray us. Not really the best time to do it, they should have done this a bit earlier. So now we just move right on to attack the final castle controlled by the Oda, the one in the bottom right hand corner of the square of castles. This one was pretty easy, I didn't even attack it, they didn't attack me, we just sat outside and they surrendered. So not much happened in that little mini-war, and this was the time when I discovered that forcing the enemy to surrender is actually easier than I thought, and maybe attacking the castles is kind of a waste of time, and perhaps a waste of troops more importantly. So we take that place, the officers that were rebelling are just kind of forgiven and come into the clan, but then the cutscene goes on to explain that the nearby Imagawa clan are up to no good. They want to go and take the capital. To do that, they have to go and take us first. So it's going down the historical route where the Oda clan was attacked by the much more powerful Imagawa very early on, which means we're in trouble. It tells me to go and surround a nearby castle. The Imagawa already have 2 castles in our territory, or in our province I should say. The territory system isn't that strict in this game. The Iko-Iki are also up to no good on our western borders, but they're just kind of standing there, so I ended up ignoring them. For now we're going to focus on this situation. We're actually going into a more substantial battle against an enemy army guarding the castle that the game told me to advance towards. So here's a battle where some tactics might actually be useful. I'm trying to get in behind the enemy. It turns out we don't really need to do anything fancy though, because our officer here has this ability called Snipe, and when you activate it, the unit becomes really good at ranged attacks and gets extra range, I think, as well. So we end up just standing here and shooting the enemy. They can't really do anything back to us, and we kill all of them. So that was an easy enough battle in the end, and I'm sure that was better than letting the auto-resolve do it where they probably would have been allowed to attack us. So we can get some better results with some micro, it seems. That army is taken down and we move on to stand outside this castle. This was the objective the game gave me for no particular reason as far as I could tell, but it turns out this is just a trigger for what it's really trying to get us towards, and that is the Battle of Okehazama, which was the historical event that allowed the Oda clan to not get defeated by the Imagawa. So here we see some of the Oda officers offering up useful plans like surrendering or trying to fortify our position. Maybe that one might actually do something. Nobunaga's not very impressed and starts waxing lyrical about things and generally being edgy, which is his whole thing. And he eventually decides that he's just going to ignore everyone and go out and try to kill the enemy faction leader, which is pretty much what happened in real life. It says, do we want to hold an event battle? I say yes. No explanation so far as to what this is, but it soon becomes clear this is the Battle of Okehazama, in which Nobunaga ran out in the middle of a storm and just cheekily attacked the center part of the Imagawa army, killed their leader, and then they just didn't invade him after that, which is how he went on to become a famous warlord. So here we have to do it. It puts us in a map with just the enemy faction leader and a few of our own troops, but not that many of our own troops. We're actually outnumbered here, perhaps historically realistic, but not very useful in game terms, because like something like Crusader Kings, numbers are the main thing that matter. Just having more troops than the enemy is the main thing you can do to be stronger than them. The micro here on the battlefield makes a difference as well, and in this case it's going to work against us, because I was trying to go around to the enemy's rear but going around to their right, but it seems they moved in the other direction towards my left, and we end up having our small left wing element be attacked by everything the enemy have, and they're just going to get annihilated. So we're trying to run away while Nobunaga turns our main stuff to face the enemy, but even then we are still going to be outnumbered. We are going to be on their flank, and I was considering here doing a cav charge by equipping our army with horses and guns at the start. We unlock extra options. The guns let you unleash a volley that confuses the enemy or something, it said, but I actually can't use that because it's raining. With the horses though, we can do a melee charge, which also says it has a chance to confuse the enemy. Maybe that just means they can't fight you for a while. Here's me struggling with the micro and not really being too familiar with the controls. It's a little bit unusual because I'm in total war brain mode and stuff, but eventually I do this charge into the enemy's rear / flank. Unfortunately, they defeated my left wing just as we made the charge. We still do hit them in the flank, but it's not really going to be as effective as I thought. We also get these messages coming in that enemy reinforcements are appearing, so that's how this little quest battle is working. There's effectively a time limit. The enemy will just overwhelm you if you don't take out their leader quickly. However, our charge is going quite poorly. The enemy are kind of running away while we're charging them, and then we're getting stuck in a melee that is super deadly. In this game, it's kind of the opposite of real life. Melee fights just kill both sides instantly, whereas ranged fights are much safer to take. So, long story short, we straight up lose. We just had a lower number than them. Both sides lose their number at about the same rate when they're melee fighting. So we lost, and there you go, the quest is failed, and I thought, well, is it going to game over me or something? Apparently not, we're still here. But the thing is, by failing that quest battle, you now just have to defeat the Imagawa clan normally to continue. And that's very difficult, because their number is bigger than my number. And what I ended up doing is fighting 4 or 5 battles, which I'm cutting out here. Here's just one example of such a battle. And trying to kill them. We held off a few waves as they sent armies at us, and it was a nice opportunity to get used to how the game works and learn the controls a bit more and stuff. So we're basically dead. We're down to like the last 500 troops in our clan at this stage, and well, they're going to be losing their lives very rapidly, because as I charge into this enemy unit, they charge me. Both sides just lose everything instantly, and there we've won another battle. But it was a Pyrrhic victory as we held off wave after wave around that random castle. By the end, I'm sitting here with my 400 and something troops left, looking at the 2,500 currently walking towards me, and I thought, well, this probably isn't going to happen. I tried to go back into my castles and I thought maybe we can defend the castles in some way, but you can't really. There's not too much of a defender's advantage in this game, because they can siege you out and force you to surrender. We need to be able to break their sieges, but we can't develop enough conscripts to do that because we used them all up in the previous battles and they don't regenerate that quickly. Leading to me just restarting the campaign. I thought you probably are supposed to win that quest battle that I lost, and that's how you're supposed to continue from this dangerous situation. And I noticed that in the battle, Nobunaga's units just kind of had the troops that were with him at the moment in the game when the quest happened. So I figured maybe we can play this system a bit if we don't deploy Nobunaga's army, or we don't deploy Nobunaga as the leader of an army, I should say, so that there's no specific amount of troops associated with him. It will instead give us an amount of troops that is possible to do the fight with. So by not having Nobunaga go around with a depleted retinue, the quest battle might get easier, that's what I'm saying, and that's what I'm trying out with this second attempt at the campaign. I'm also doing this a bit more. This is a thing where you can kind of send diplomats to these tribes, quote unquote, that are around your territory to gain their support, and they'll give you extra troops in battles sometimes, and they give you money as well. I think the tribes are supposed to be like areas or towns that aren't directly under the control of the samurai ruling class or something, so you just have to kind of be nice to them and maybe they'll be nice to you back. And this did work out. They sent various units to help us with our sieges. At the sieges I didn't make any attacks, I was trying to conserve troops as much as possible. So I just siege them out, get them to surrender. It means things happen a bit more slowly, but I don't think that matters because it seems that the Imagawa invasion is based on your progress through this quest rather than an actual date, so we can spend some time to get more ready for it. I kind of messed up all my preparations in the end. Well, you'll see. First I made a save before the event battle, and then I finally deployed Nobunaga thinking maybe he does need to be in the field for this battle to happen or something. But you can see I can only deploy him with 1,400 troops. And that's because I'm deploying him from a castle that doesn't have that many troops in it. You can't sort of absorb in troops from across your clan. You are deployed with the troops that are to hand locally. So that means when the battle starts, we're actually just as weak as before, but at least now I've confirmed the numbers. I've seen it is exactly how many troops you have when the battle begins, is how many will come into this other dimension and fight for you in this quest battle. In this case, I was going to very slowly walk all the way around the enemy, but they actually rushed me, so a different strategy to the previous time. We're just going to stand here and try to fight them, but we have less number, and maybe the enemy have better stats as well. The units do have some rough stats, but I'm guessing they're not that important since it doesn't even tell you what they are in battles. You can see when you deploy a unit what its stats are going to be. Anyway, we fight the enemy for a while, we lose because our number went down too fast, and that's the end of that. Afterwards I went to look on YouTube to see can you actually get more troops, and I found it very hard to find any material or information on this game. It's very obscure, it seems, more obscure than I thought it was. I eventually found somebody playing the game, and when they got this quest battle, they had way more troops. So I was like, yes, you can get more troops by gaming the system. And I realized this is what we need to do. We need to move Nobunaga's home base to somewhere that has a higher maximum troop capacity so that he can spawn with more troops in his personal unit, and that's going to be the key to victory. So before we go and surround that castle to trigger the quest battle, we rearrange our clan a bit and end up fielding Nobunaga with like 4,000 troops instead. You can see the stats I mentioned there. His stats are pretty much maxed out because he is an overpowered story character, so that's handy. And then we come back to the quest battle, and this time we have more number. Now we're talking. So we're not going to do anything special, we're just going to stand in front of him and shoot arrows. He triggers something to increase his ranged attack power. Well, two can play at that game because we can also trigger something that raises it even more. So with this, his number is not only lower than my number, but it's going down faster than my number, and that means we're going to win the battle. So skipping forwards, we do defeat his unit, and while other things were spawning onto the map, you just have to kill the faction leader to win the quest. And that's that. This time we're going to proceed as intended in the game. The result of completing this quest is that the Imagawa clan splits up because its component Matsudaira clan wants to be independent. So they're going to split off and create a new faction that's next to us. They're the part of the Imagawa that's nearest to us. Plus, they like Nobunaga. The Matsudaira daimyo is Nobunaga's childhood friend or something. There's some history going on here that I vaguely remember. I think it is mentioned in the game somewhere. Anyway, now, the Imagawa are less of a big deal because they're buffered behind someone else, and they're just in general chaos caused by the effects of that quest battle. But more action is going to happen right away because to the north, the Saito clan has fallen to a rebellion, and Nobunaga is de facto allied to the old Saito leadership through marriage alliance, meaning in a Crusader Kings 2 sort of way, he now has a claim to all of the territory north of him because it's held by an illegitimate ruler, and we can use that as an excuse to invade Mino province and expand our territory. First though, I did want to finish off the Imagawa bits in our territory right now, and for this we do have to still kill some of their armies which were stationed in the area. So here we see Nobunaga going into battle against an enemy force that's roughly similar in size and probably strength to him, but they're divided up into 2 units. So we just have to try and kill them separately. I'm not sure, but I feel like your troop count must relate to your offensive potential. That would make sense as a mechanic, but I can't quite tell if that's how it works. So I feel like by fighting them in smaller groups, this means we'll trade more efficiently. Also, we can use special abilities to trade more efficiently as well. It looks like these guys really want to have a melee fight. Our army's automatically skirmishing away and trying to keep shooting at them. I feel like you can probably shoot while moving, but again, I can't really tell. Ultimately, I just turn around and decide to melee fight with him. This is super deadly, but we win. And just in time as well, because the other enemy group now shows up. I wanted to ranged attack them, but they're powering up for a melee assault it seems. They've increased their melee attack with an ability. I have a similar ability I can use to increase my melee attack, but I decided not to use it because it does deplete a command bar, that thing at the top of the screen to use abilities. So instead, I'm going to use the charge ability to try and confuse the enemy. They used it on me at the same time, so basically all of the remaining soldiers on the battlefield just wildly run at each other. Virtually everybody dies. We were actually trading very poorly there. They were killing us faster than we were killing them, but we had more number, so we win. We were almost punished for that Pyrrhic victory because there were a few more units we had to kill outside the enemy's last castle. However, you can see here we've got these reinforcements. This is from being nice to the tribes. They've sent a group of loyal allies to come and fight with us in this battle. And that means we're not only not outnumbered, but we can make use of our allies to reduce the casualties on our quote-unquote real troops, win the battle, and that's that really for the Imagawa in our area. From here we can just sit outside their castles and eventually take them without losing more troops, and Owari province will be secure. Our southern border will be secure thanks to the Matsudaira's antics against the Imagawa, and then we'll have the north to expand into thanks to our casus belli provided by their rebellion. So we'll be getting onto that sort of thing in part 2 of this series, as I gradually begin to work out how to play the game and even use some strategies.